Hello and welcome to Nerve Check. I'm Ray, I'm the brains. I am not joined today by either Ben or John. However, I have a special guest, Paige from Newbie Dice. He runs an excellent podcast for Kings of War individuals looking to what is the latest and greatest on how to form your army, and he has advice for new people trying to learn the game. As a Canadian, if I wanted to travel out to Southeast Asia, are there any 2-day events which somebody from away could travel to Southeast Asia to play in? Would it be the Southeast Asian Masters? Is that a 2-day that's open to everyone, or is there a tournament in Singapore?
So we are doing Clash of Kings Asia. We have started it last year. This year was the second run. So last year was in January. This year was in February. Next year we're planning it to be in May. So that would be the only 2-day event in Asia. We are a small community. If you talk about Singapore, we have active and inactive players 20.
If you don't,
so at the tournament, we can barely scrape 8 for a 1-day tournament when we run one.
If you don't, like somebody like me, I can speak English, I can speak French poorly.
We speak English, so
but that's about it.
in Singapore, English is our national language because we were a British colony. So
well, so were we.
Yeah, so English was adopted as a language, and even when the Brits left, our first prime minister was like, let's make English our national language, and definitely that has an advantage for us in the global scene, right? When you're able to speak English, so you have no problems coming to Singapore as an English speaking person or Chinese speaking person. The majority of people are Chinese, so we are on most parts are bilingual. There are certain other races as well, for sure, that speaks their native tongues. But English and Chinese are the two most spoken language in Singapore. English is no problem. We do hold Clash of Kings Asia in Malaysia, which is just north of us. It's a 1-hour drive from Singapore to Malaysia, to the southern tip of Malaysia, and then it's another 3 to 4 hours drive to the capital. We're going to Penang.
But anyone going there from either Europe or North America can message you to say, please help me plan
definitely.
this.
I had John Paul Fuller Jackson. He had he's from the Caffeinated Warlord YouTube channel. He came to Singapore for work, and he decided to extend his trip 1 extra day to hang out. So me being quite flexible in my work, I just took the whole day to bring him around. Yeah, he only spent the morning at a paid tourist attraction, which I didn't go. After that, he came out, he met me, then I just brought him around Singapore, and then we ended with 2 games for him. And I said, message me the list you want to play. We'll put the models together, and then he messaged me a list, and then between me and the players, we got the models together for him to play the list that he wanted to play. Yeah, and the funny thing was, his work put him up in Hilton Hotel, right? So he said, it'll be fine. I'll just extend another night in Hilton Hotel. Turns out it's super expensive, but he paid for that anyway.
It's the part of life. And a question from one content creator to the other. Which of your videos do the best? Like for us, for Nerve Check, our videos, which are Northern Alliance review, Forces of Abyss review, those ones which are very generic do the best, get the most views. Our videos which are, we're going to talk about our 1-day tournament that's coming up in October in Canada, clearly do not do well from a view count perspective. We still make them because we think it's important to cover the local scene, and that's the focus normally of our channel. But do you cover both ends? Do you focus, like, which videos do the best for you from a view count perspective?
Definitely the generic ones. So the one that I have 2,000 views of, which is way above my average of 200 plus per videos, is a video about how to deal with flying armies, how to deal with flying opponents. So those general tips videos does the best. So that one was pretty popular. I think a lot of people talk about that video as well. I think it is a good.
I definitely watched that
Yeah.
at least twice because John plays flying list and I have to be able to beat him. So yes.
So because I found my early success in Kings of War, late second edition, early third edition with flying alpha strike lists, sort of what you see in most Green Lady lists in the past 1 year or two. But I was piloting it since the start of third edition. It was much harder back then because unlocks were a bit of a problem. Forsaken hordes don't unlock. So that was a very big problem. So I had to bring men at arms hordes just to get the unlocks, because in Green Lady you need the hero and the monster unlocks for the Pegasus. So I had to bring some elemental hordes and men at arm hordes because those are the unlocks, right? But nowadays you can just spam a lot of Forsaken. So for me it was Forsaken hordes. I started with one horde of Forsaken and one Redemption Knight regiments, with two beasts of nature. So the beasts of nature are the one that will nimble fly around until it gets a juicy flank. So I got a lot of success with that because a lot of people didn't know how to handle that in the early stages, and then so I decided to make a video on how to deal against it. So people would figure out how to deal against it. But it was quite a lot of effort to put that video together because I had to script what I wanted to say, what are the topics I want to cover, the basics of it, the basics of defending against it, and then the advanced tips. And then I have to plan out examples, which on hindsight, I think my examples weren't the greatest, but I think it still gave some concept of how to deal with it. And then I also picked out from battle reports, past battle reports. This is a good example of how I wrecked my opponent because he didn't defend against my flying units, or how my opponent defended well against my flying units. So it was quite a massive effort to put together, and I'm glad it was well received. I made another video about how to deal with shooting, which is still did considerably well, 1,000 plus views. I think I did that video quite well also, but maybe people aren't as afraid of shooting or something. So it didn't do as well as the one that deals with flying. Yeah, and other videos that did well, the review videos did well. The ones that review the Clash every year after it comes out, and I always get Jeff Trash, Adam Ballard, and some esteemed players all around the world to talk about it together. And no holds barred. If we think it sucks, it sucks, right? We're not going to censor ourselves about it. So sometimes it can be a bit controversial. Yeah, and when we dumped on ignore obscure and ignore conceal. We think it's terrible rule. Yeah, so and the other videos that did well were usually the battle reports right after the edition release, or right after the Clash release. I think people were curious to see how the armies perform after the updates. So those battle reports that are straight after an edition change or update or Clash updates tend to have higher view counts.
So when you're making your videos which capture battles, such as your latest Forces of Abyss, do you ever go, I'm going to deliberately make a list that is silly just for this online battle report, or do you focus more on lists that you're actively trying to use that are actively good?
I focus on what I want to play. To be honest, I don't have much playing time. So when I play, I want to play what I want to play, right? I don't want to say, I'm going to play a stupid list just for a battle report. No. Or
So not like us, where we were like, let's see how many Titans we can put in each list, and then go out, play the tournament with that many Titans, and then come back and compare notes as to, like, your list only had 4 Titans, my list had 5, your list had 6. So nothing
Nothing
like
like
that
that.
where
So
you're tighten.
unfortunately, nothing like that. My opponents might run silly stuff. So, but I am always focusing on what I want to play, what I want to try and improve. If I'm playing a but
See, and this is why
so
anyone who's listening at this point, listen to Paige, listen to Newbie Dice when you want to learn how to win, listen to Nerve Check when you want to say, are these guys actually going to seriously do this? Two different
yeah.
podcasts.
So I'm still quite competitive. So I like to build a list that I can win with. I'm not doing like some silly team. So I would mostly want to build a list that could function and play and compete decently well. I can't say that for my opponents all the time. That's James in particular. He plays quite a bit of games, and he started playing later than me. Right, he played I think from 2021, but in terms of regular games, he's getting more than me. So he will play silly lists or he'll try different lists. He would also try an opponent's list when he find it interesting. So the triple dragon list that you fought against was
Yes.
a modification from another local player's list, Peter. So Peter is another local player. He just started playing Kings, I think, this year or just within the past year. He was an old Warhammer player. So when End Times happened, he was out of the hobby for a while. We lured him in. He came for one of the tournaments he saw, and then we gave him a free rulebook, third edition rulebook, and then he jumped in. He plays exclusively undead, so he would really go deep into the undead list and really figure out what builds he could. So Peter was the first one who came out with this 3 dragons and lots of lightning bolts list and a bunch of trash. And then James found it interesting. I played against Peter. I was like, oh, this list is quite interesting that he fielded. Then I texted James about it. James played against Peter the next day. Then I was like, oh, it's really quite interesting. So he decided to run that list. And he put his own modifications on it. He played the list. The initial list was 3 dragons, zombies, and ghouls. So when he played it against another fellow good Singapore player, Quan Jin, KJ, he played dwarves. It was like the ghouls dies too fast. Why not you switch it to revenants? And true enough, when he switched to revenants, I was like, oh wow, it performed amazingly well. I think you probably would have you had experience playing against that list in at Mantic, right? So Revenant regiments are relatively cheap, 125 points, but they have that high nerf value, dash 17, defense 5. So when you hit against it and you kill it, great, it's 125 points. But when you bounce, that's where your hammers die. So so it's a very, very interesting list.
And James was a lot of fun. I was very glad I was able to get a game
Yeah, he's
against
very
him.
animated when he plays, and he'll be very loud. And, oh wow, it goes this way. Sometimes it gets on players' nerves when things are not going bad for the player,
Oh,
but I'm okay with the way he plays. Definitely.
no, he was a lot of fun. I'm very glad I was at Mantic headquarters, able to go for the tour and get the game in against him. My only regret was I didn't bring my army
Oh, you
with
had to
me.
proxy the entire
So I was
army.
playing with like, I proxied the entire army. So I had ogres as Bristol Berserkers, and I didn't have any of my dice, so I had to borrow his dice, and I didn't have a tape measure. So my only regret was I didn't have all my stuff when I played James, but I'm still very glad I got to play against him. It was a fun game. He ended up beating me, I think 4-3. It was a close game, but he ended up beating me. That was the theme of my weekend. Was I lost to Undead all 3 times I played them that weekend, and James just gave me the kick to say that's the way it's going to go down.
He's okay
So
with proxies. He himself proxies quite a lot because he likes to play a breadth of armies. He played way more factions than me. For me, I still I'm competitive, but I still do the hobby side of things. So I only play armies that I am planning to paint and field. So like I've never touched undead because I've never painted or intend to paint an undead army. I've never touched a majority of the factions because I only play the factions that I'm planning to build. So he proxies quite a lot during casual games, and he's very fine with people proxying as well. I think he's used to it himself. Like, oh, this is that is this is that. Okay, fine.
Well, and it was very kind of him. It was very nice just to get the game in, so I appreciate that. But this was my, so I guess that ties into what's the final question of the day, which is going into fourth. I have finished a year of playing Abyssal Berserkers. So when the last Clash book was coming out, I looked at the last Clash book and I'm like, Abyssal Berserkers are good. They're too good. And I made those comments when I was part of the playtesting. And I was like, I'm going to use Abyssal Berserkers and show everyone that Abyssal Berserkers are too good. And I used Forces of Abyss for the entire year. So it was my last army of 3rd edition, and Crossroads 2 weekends ago was their last tournament. So that army is now on the shelf. And I'm prepping Halflings as my army for 4th edition. My question to you, Paige, is there an army that you're looking to play with in 4th edition? Is there an army you're getting ready to use? What should we expect from you going into 4th?
Right. Before that, I would like to ask you, so after playing 1 year of Forces of the Abyss, what are Berserkers broken?
I think Berserkers are too good. I think they're not as broken as what I thought they were, but I think if you took away their ability to get the sacrificial imps, it would mean that you couldn't spam Berserkers for your army, because the sacrificial imps give you the counter to shooting, and the Abyssal Berserkers are really capable of doing everything else. And it's still an Alpha Strike army, so you still need to not have bad die rolls. But they are capable of doing exceptionally well. And in Clash UK, I lost 2 games. But other than that, I never lost more than 1 game in a tournament all year with the Abyssal Berserkers. So I think if you took away the sacrificial imps, you can't spam them. You're vulnerable to shooting. You need to make a more balanced list. I think the changes that I've seen so far with the movement 7, with everything having nimble, probably means that the Abyssal Berserkers will not be as good going into 4th edition as what they were when they were movement 9 and had all the advantages. But I have to see the book to see how everything changes before I can make a definitive statement.
Yeah,
that being said, if you play an army for a complete year, you do get better with the army. And what I mean by that is 24 into 25, playing a year with one army, I got to learn how it worked. I got to learn all the math. I got to understand how the army works very, very well. The previous year, I did 5 or 6 different armies over the course of the year, with like each 2-day being a different army. And I never really learned how any of those armies played. Like I played Trident Realm, Order of the Green Lady, Ratkin, Orcs, and maybe something else. And each tournament was like, let's just pick a different army and go play. But you never really got good at how does that army work. That being said, I probably don't want to play the same army for a year because it gets a bit repetitive. But having a primary army going ahead is probably something I'll do.
Right. My thoughts on Abyss, because I did bring Abyss to Clash of Kings as well, and I brought it as a last minute decision. I decided on Abyss about 2 to 3 weeks before Clash UK. I was deciding between Goblins, which I used to win Clash of Kings Asia this year. Last year I went with Goblins. I came in 3rd, and then I won Northern Alliance army box, and then I built Northern Alliance for a year. I wanted to bring Northern Alliance to Clash Asia this year in February, but I just couldn't get the list to work the way I want to. Then so I fell back on Goblins, so I managed to win. And then for Clash UK, I wanted to bring Goblins at first, then I realized there were two problems for bringing goblins. Number one is all the difficult terrain are at least height 1. So back where we used to play, the lakes and fields are height 0 or flat terrain, which means if you shoot over them, you don't suffer cover penalty. But because of that, a lot of my shots are suffering cover penalty when it used to not. So I was like, oh, that's not great for a goblin army. Of course, the wingeds are ignore obscured, but the ballistas are actually the sleeper hits of the goblins because they're so cheap and they put out a lot of damage throughout the whole game. So I veered away from goblins. I decided to do Northern Alliance. I went back to Northern Alliance and I was ready to bring it to Clash. I made a couple of modifications. Then in the end, it still didn't perform the way I want to. It depended on a slow central block of units moving forwards, and it depended on the opponent charging my Naiad, ice Naiads. Because once you charge, you'll bounce off, and then I'm gonna crush you. But faster armies can play around it. So the final nail in the coffin when I decided not to bring was when I fought a guy who had not even a fast army, but he had a fast wing. He had a fast flank that was managed to outmaneuver my army.
Yeah.
He ignored the Naiads for the most of the game, and then he had Twilight Kin, the Void Skiffs, just facing off against a Hearthguard, and then it was a hold the line. So my Hearthguard had to stay in the right flank, in that side flank to hold that zone. And then on the last turn, he just flew away into the center zone and won the game. So I was like, I'm just being. I used to be an Alpha Strike player, right? And I'm bullied by faster units. I'm like, this is not how I want to play my game. So I was like, okay, let me go make Abyss, and let me go to Abyss. And I didn't have a lot of berserkers prepared at the time. So I only had 2. I built 1 horde and 2 regiments, so it could be fielded as 2 hordes, right? So I ended up bringing 3 hordes and 1 regiment. So I had to paint the extra hordes 2 weeks before Clash. I did a 1-day tournament in Singapore, which was a few weeks before, and I just speed painted. So it wasn't a full berserker list. It was a hybrid shooting and berserker list, partially because I don't have time to prepare more berserkers. Partially, I didn't want to field an all berserker list for hobby reasons. I quite like the aesthetic. I'm a competitive player, but with some hobby motivations as well. So I was like, I don't want to bring an all berserker list for the modeling reasons. I like the variety that my units are done, especially my Bale model. I think I was quite proud of it. So as I was tweaking the list, I was like, Bale is 265 points. It's like, it's a very expensive mini dragon. So I was like, I could change it for a horde of berserkers. I was like, I was so tempted. I was like, no, let me just keep Bale. Yeah, so I also went 4 and 2, but my wins are smaller wins and my losses were big losses. So I was on the further end of 4 and 2 in terms of the rankings. That being said, so my verdict on berserkers are, in the grand meta, it's quite a good unit. I wouldn't call it broken, but it's top tier. But within the balance of Abyss itself, it's broken. It's too good. Like, there's no reason to take other things other than berserkers. Like Morlocks, might as well take berserkers. Horsemen, I fielded 1 unit of horsemen because I like my horseman models. They're actually the soul flayer models. So I was like, horsemen? No, just might as well take berserkers, because you said that the sacrificial imp gives them the defense against shooting, right? But yeah, the other hammers are not good against shooting either. So
well, horsemen are T5,
but
so I don't
one
think,
less nerf,
and they're
16. So they die
two
less than berserkers, 1 less than average.
But the dash as well. So I think horsemen versus are slightly better against shooting overall because they're dash. I would accept that. I think horsemen have at least one unit with Blood of the Old King is good.
Yeah. Except because you have the apostate, right? Because when you have the apostate, then you want that synergy. How did the apostate perform for you?
The apostate is wonderful, and I still gave one of my berserker hordes Blood of the Old King, because there's always the time where your unit is away from the apostate, or when you want to place. What I found worked best for me was 3 hordes on one side, 1 horde on the other, and the 1 horde by itself I gave Blood of the Old King, and the other hordes had the apostate to provide the vicious aura. I thought the apostate was absolutely wonderful to provide me with smoothing the curve out when you're rolling D4 fours. When you're rolling 4s on D6, it's very variable. There's a lot of variance, to use a Jeremy Duval term. You can have big swings in terms of one way or the other, but when you add vicious to it or add elite, it smooths everything out. It makes you more consistent in what your die rolls should be.
Yeah. So I think the berserkers are overtuned because of the number of attacks they have. So the speed isn't the problem, because when you drop the speed, then you are in the league of the Morlocks and the horsemen. So like you're less different from them. So I'll going to 4th, and of course I don't know how shooting will turn out to be, but I thought the right thing that should have been done was to keep the speed but lower the number of attacks to be more on par. One of the things is that they have way too many attacks, and I think you roll 30 dice long enough to know that there are sometimes that it really perform very well, especially if you have the units with Brew of Sharpness. That one is 20 hits, right? So it's like, wow, 20 hits on average. It's really a bit over the top.
And I think going against D6 dwarfs, I have a different view, where D6 dwarfs are a very common build in Canada and the Northeast United States. So against defense 6 dwarfs, the 30 attacks is required, because with 24 attacks, you don't have the breakthrough capacity. You'd be averaging about 12 hits. What we're seeing is the move for the Naiad Worm Riders, where they went from 18 attacks to 20 attacks on 3s, made a significant difference in the usefulness of that unit, because you began going up to roughly 14 hits. And for a large cav model, that's about the amount you need at crushing 1. So I'm not necessarily as opposed to the number of attacks, given that they hit on 4s. I think they just needed the counter, and I think shooting was an easy counter at defense 4. When we were doing playtesting, the proposal was to give them 30 attacks, but even make them defense 3. And I think if you made them defense 3, that would be the other counters, to make them even more squishy for when they fail to kick butt and take names.
Yeah. So where were we? We're talking about Forces of the Abyss, right? So I think we have concluded that that topic. So back to what I'll feel for the 4th edition. My army choices, whether I'm playing Kings of War or even other game systems, when I choose an army to play, it's always for aesthetic reasons. I'll stare at the models.
Okay.
I'll see if I like the look of this faction. I'll think of hobby ideas, like what I want to do with this faction. So for like my Abyss, I had a very strong Persian team, and it was still using Mantic models. I enjoy conversions quite a bit. So I'm a bit bummed by 3D printing, because I think that takes away it takes the creativity into the computer screen. You can just kit bash digitally, which I felt was a different set of skills, and maybe not the skills that we want to promote in this hobby, because you can see your paint racks beside you. It's also about the assembling and painting and the creative kit bashing and all that, right? The playing with your toy soldiers. So the way I choose armies is very based on aesthetics, the theme, what I want the army to look. But once I select the army, then I would decide how to make it competitive. so so that's so if you I can tell you what my next army is not based on competitive reason, and my next army will be Rift Forge Orcs. So I've been wanting to do uh, a good paint job or hobby job of a next army. So the easy answer was always ogres, right? Because less model count, bigger models, you can spend effort painting each model nicer. A lot of times I have grand lofty ideas on hobby. I think everybody have this at the start. When you're planning an army, you have grand lofty ideas of how you're going to paint and base them beautifully. Halfway through, you just lost the motivation. It's like, I'm just gonna scramble and speed paint to get it done. So then, the paint job, the hobby effort just goes down halfway through the project. So ogres is always one that I wanted to do, but the problem is, so does everybody else. So does everybody else always wanted to do a well painted ogre army. So the first motivation was ogres, but then I was like, everybody else does ogres as a hobby job, a hobby challenge, right? Because it's easy to paint and all that. So thinking adjacent to that, I was like, okay, orcs. I'll do orcs instead. I like the aesthetics of Rift Forge orcs. I like the heavy armor. What do you call it? The Warcraft orcs aesthetics. And I was like, oh, they're beefy enough. They're like smaller ogres. They're still the heavy infantry size, right? They're bigger than humans. I do like the aesthetics of Rift Forge orcs enough that I would say, okay, I think I'll go into Rift Forge orcs. So I chose they don't have ambush boxes. So for my Clash UK free unit, I chose a regiment of Rift Forge orcs. I went to Mantic. I bought an army box of Rift Forged orcs. So that's like 60 orcs in total. I think that's enough for the whole army. Some Hell Strikers. Of course, I don't know how 4th edition is going to pan out. And I have a very, very specific theme that I want to execute for my Rift Forge orcs. It's going to be a crazy idea. I like crazy ideas. I don't think I'm a great painter, but I think I have great ideas. So I won't review it just yet, I guess. It'll be a surprise when it's near completion.
No. You've said enough. So watch Paige's channel for games practices with orcs come 4th edition. Because I think Rift Forge plus orcs are getting merged in 4th edition, so it's going to be one common army. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with to play with them.
And I think it's pretty much confirmed. I think it's a safe bet to say that the two orcs are going to be combined into one army. So I think it will.
Okay, absolutely.
It will. The changes will be quite massive to the list on top of the edition change. So I think I'm not building any of the models until I see what I want to build, what lists I want to build. Yeah. So looking forward to what 4th has in store for the Rift Forged / Orcs army. The one thing I'm bummed out by is that the aesthetics of the two different orcs are very different. So I do like the Mantic orc models, actually. I think they look quite good. They are quite menacing. They're not goofy looking, which was the direction that GW was taking. It's just that the things are a bit dated, right? The kits are a bit dated, but I still think they look good. But the Rift Forged look better, and so even if it's Orcs and Rift Forge, I don't know if they're gonna keep the teams separate, right? The Rift Forge Orcs versus the normal Orcs. But I think I'll use the Rift Forged models for all the orcs, even if they are more eggs or even if they are the traditional orc models, just to keep the theme of it the same, just to take the look as the aesthetic consistent.
Okay. Well, Paige, thank you very much for coming on to a Canadian podcast and talking with me this morning, evening. It was wonderful to see you at Clash, and I don't know when we will cross paths again, probably not for a couple of years, but when we do, I look forward to having a drink, sharing a game. Hopefully next time you and I can have a practice game before the event as well, because you would be one of the people who I'd love to have a game with. And to just
we have played on UB before, right? A few times.
On UB, yeah, but it's always fun to be able to be across the table from. Like, it was great to be against James and play against James, but watching you and Marcelo play. So next time I'll make sure I bring my army and have time for even 2 practice games on the Friday.
Right.
So, but thank you very much for your time this evening. It was greatly appreciated. Do you have any final words or comments you'd like to?
Yeah, actually, I could read for a while longer if you would like to talk a little bit longer. Are you available to talk longer?
I will after, but we're going to cut it for everyone else, and then I'll talk to you afterwards.
So I'll just keep it brief. Me and James, we were talking about whether we want to go back to Clash UK again the next year. And it's like, probably I need to accumulate more brownie points to be traveling so far twice in a row without the wife, right? So, but I was brainstorming, or rather just chatting with James. I was like, I think I would like to hit different regions to meet different people. Competitively, I was like, I did 4-2, James did 4-2, you did 4-2. Like, I mean, am I gonna aim to win the entire tournament? Probably not. I'm happy with a 4-2 placing. Maybe I'll do 5-1. Will I feel significantly different than placing 4-2? I was like, I don't think so. So I'm like, I would want to prioritize going to different regions to meet new people. So at one point, I would like to head to US for tournament, for sure. And US is much further than UK, so it's almost a whole day's flight for Singapore. Yeah.
Is it really that much longer for you?
It flies. Depends. If I go to the West Coast, my plane will fly across the Pacific Ocean.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you never think about that looking at a map of the world, that Singapore is closer to London than what it is from San Francisco or Washington.
Yeah, because we're on the east side, right? UK is considered in the middle, right? And then America is in the west. Mm-hmm. So you have to, if I'm going to the East Coast, I have to fly past Europe. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. So we'll hit the US tournament hopefully, and Australian tournament as well. So that's in the cards. And then most likely they are 2 years apart from each other. So maybe 4 years before I hit US. 2 years. Hopefully going to Australia in 2 years. CanCon. That's one that we're eyeing. CanCon is unfortunately always pretty near to Chinese New Year, so that is a challenge. Yeah, Chinese New Year follows the lunar calendar, so the actual date drifts between late Jan to mid Feb every year, and CanCon is always in late Jan, so it's a bit tough. And especially even if it's not on the same weekend, Chinese New Year is like, I always say, it's like Christmas for the Westerners. You do get ready for Christmas. There's a lot of preparation. We do spring cleaning of our houses because there'll be lots of visitations between families. So there's a lot of prep even before Chinese New Year. So that whole period is sort of off limits for personal activity. So that will be a challenge. US is definitely one I hope to hit if I can. Hopefully the game still goes on strong enough for the next few years. 4th edition. Every time there's an edition change, there's a bit of turbulence, right? And with significant changes, I definitely expect some things to be broken out of the gate, some things that needs to be fixed. Yeah, but hopefully things will stabilize fast enough and the game will keep on going strong.
I hope so as well. For me, the next big one, I think 2 years from now, I'm going to try to go back to Clash UK. If for some reason I'm traveling out to the Far East, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, etc., I'll ping you or ping the people down in Australia to try to figure out if I can conveniently enough work some games in. but it's far easier for me to get to the UK than it is
Definitely.
even to get to the west coast of the
Yeah.
States. Because when I went to Reno, it was actually a more expensive and longer flight for me to go from Toronto to Reno than from Toronto to London.
Right. Wow. And more expensive.
Because you don't think of just how big it is in North America to go from the East Coast to the West Coast, but it's the same distance as the East Coast to the
Right.
UK. Just the way geography works.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, I will definitely stop the recording. Looking forward to talking to you. So for anyone who has made it this long, check out Paige's channel, check out Newbie Dice, and you will not get to hear the two of us go through all of our ramblings about Fourth and the new armies that we're doing, because we're not going to let you listen.